podium was a sea of glittering gowns and polished suits, the air thick with the hum of laughter and clinking glasses. Crystal chandeliers cast a golden glow over the room, illuminating the faces of the nation's elite. Among them sat Barron Trump, an 18-year-old with a quiet presence that seemed to defy the chaos around him. He wasn't there to be seen or heard, he was there to observe, to learn, to exist, in a world that often forgot the humanity behind the headlines. The evening's keynote speaker, a celebrated journalist known for their biting humor, took the stage. The crowd erupted in polite applause, but Barron remained still, his piercing blue eyes fixed on the podium. The journalist began with light-hearted jokes, their charm disarming the room. But as the speech progressed, the tone shifted. The jokes turned sharper, the targets more personal. Laughter thinned, replaced by uneasy glances. Then, the journalist's gaze landed on Barron. "Let's talk about Barron," they quipped, their voice dripping with mockery. "Imagine growing up in a golden tower, surrounded by marble everything, while the rest of us are just trying to survive Monday mornings." The room froze. Heads turned toward Barron, who sat motionless, his face unreadable. The spotlight, unasked for and unwelcome, burned brightly on him. But instead of shrinking, Barron stood. Slowly, deliberately, he pushed back his chair and walked toward the stage. The room held its breath. When he reached the edge of the stage, he spoke, his voice steady and calm. "Thank you for your insight," he began, his words cutting through the silence like a blade. "I've grown up watching people make assumptions about me, my family, and my life. It's almost become a game to some, a way to fill in the gaps when you don't know the full story." The journalist shifted uncomfortably, their earlier confidence evaporating. Barron continued, his tone firm but kind. "Behind every headline, behind every punchline, there's a human being, someone with their own struggles, their own dreams, and their own story. You may think you know me because of who my father is, but you don't, not really." The room was spellbound. Barron's words carried a weight that transcended his age, a quiet strength that left the audience in awe. "What I've learned," he said, pausing for a moment, "is that respect doesn't have to be earned. It should be given freely, especially when you don't know someone's story." He turned slightly, addressing the crowd. "We live in a time where it's easy to tear each other down. Words have power. They can hurt, or they can heal. They can divide, or they can unite. And I think we could all use a little more of the latter." As Barron walked back to his seat, the room erupted into a thunderous standing ovation. The journalists stood frozen at the podium, their earlier bravado completely dissolved. Barron, seated once more, offered a polite nod, his composure unshaken. In the days that followed, clips of Barron's speech went viral. News outlets praised his maturity while the journalist issued a public apology. But for Barron, the frenzy of attention was irrelevant. He returned to his studies, his quiet dignity intact. The incident became a teaching moment, a reminder of the power of empathy and the importance of treating others with respect. Parents used Barron's words to teach their children about kindness. Teachers played the video in classrooms, sparking discussions about civility and the impact of words. Barron's response was more than just a moment of personal triumph, it was a call to action. In a world often dominated by outrage and division, his quiet strength reminded us all of the power of compassion, the importance of understanding, and the enduring value of respect. And as the dust settled, one thing became clear sometimes: the most powerful statements are made not with anger or defiance, but with grace, humility, and an unwavering belief in the goodness of humanity. The days following the event were a whirlwind. Barron's speech had struck a chord far beyond the ballroom. Social media platforms were flooded with hashtags like #RespectMatters and #BarronTrumpSpeech. Memes and quotes from his address were shared millions of times, and his words became a rallying cry for those advocating for kindness and understanding in a fractured world. Barron, however, remained largely unaffected by the sudden surge of attention. He had always been a private person, preferring the quiet solitude of his studies and hobbies over the glare of the public eye. His family, too, respected his desire for privacy, shielding him from the media frenzy as much as possible. But even they couldn't deny the impact of his words. One evening, as Barron sat in the library of his family's estate, his father, Donald Trump, entered the room. "Barron," he began, his tone uncharacteristically soft, "I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you. What you did at that event, it took guts, and it reminded a lot of people what really matters." Barron looked up from his book, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Thanks, Dad. I just said what I felt needed to be said." Donald nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You know, I've spent my life in the spotlight. I've been praised, criticized, and everything in between. But what you did, that's something special. You didn't just defend yourself, you reminded people of their humanity. That's not easy to do." Barron shrugged modestly. "I just think we could all use a little more empathy." The world's a tough enough place as it is. Donald placed a hand on his son's shoulder. You're wise beyond your years, Barren. Don't ever lose that. As the weeks passed, Barron's speech continued to resonate. Schools across the country began incorporating his message into their curricula, using it as a springboard for discussions on empathy, respect, and the power of words. Universities invited him to speak at events, though he politely declined most offers, preferring to focus on his education. One invitation, however, caught his attention. It was from a small, underfunded high school in a struggling community. The principal, a woman named Miss Thompson, had written a heartfelt letter explaining how Barron's words had inspired her students to start a kindness initiative at their school. She invited him to visit and see the impact of his message firsthand. Barron was intrigued. He had always been drawn to the idea of making a tangible difference, and this seemed like an opportunity to do just that. After discussing it with his family, he accepted the invitation. The day of the visit, Barron arrived at the school to a warm welcome. The students, many of whom had never met someone from a family as prominent as his, were initially shy, but Barron's down-to-earth demeanor quickly put them at ease. He spent the day talking with students, listening to their stories, and sharing his own. He participated in their kindness initiative, helping to organize a community cleanup and a food drive for local families in need. The students were inspired by his humility and genuine interest in their lives. As the day drew to a close, Miss Thompson approached Barron. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You've made a real difference here today. These kids will never forget it." Barron smiled. "Thank you for inviting me. It's been an honor to meet them and see the amazing work they're doing. They're the ones making the real difference." The visit was a turning point for Barron. It reinforced his belief in the power of empathy and the importance of using his platform for good. He began to explore ways to continue making a positive impact, whether through philanthropy, advocacy, or simply leading by example. Years later, as Barron looked back on that pivotal evening in the ballroom, he realized how much it had shaped his life. It had taught him the importance of standing up for what he believed in, even in the face of adversity. It had shown him the power of words to inspire change and the value of treating others with kindness and respect. And as he continued on his journey, Barron remained committed to those principles, knowing that even the smallest acts of compassion could have a ripple effect, touching lives in ways he could never have imagined. In a world often dominated by noise and division, Barron Trump's quiet strength and unwavering belief in the goodness of humanity served as a beacon of hope. A reminder that no matter how challenging the times, there is always room for kindness, understanding, and respect. The story of Barron's speech and its aftermath became a modern parable, a tale of grace under pressure and the enduring power of empathy. It was recounted in books, documentaries, and even a feature film, each retelling adding new layers to the narrative. But for Barron, the true impact was in the lives he touched and the conversations he sparked. As he grew older, Barron continued to navigate the complexities of his unique position with humility and integrity. He pursued higher education, earning degrees in political science and international relations, and used his knowledge to advocate for causes close to his heart, such as mental health awareness and youth empowerment. Barron's journey was not without its challenges. He faced criticism and scrutiny, as anyone in the public eye inevitably does, but he remained steadfast in his commitment to kindness and respect, always striving to lead by example. In the end, Barron Trump's legacy was not defined by his family name or the wealth and privilege that came with it. It was defined by his character, his compassion, and his unwavering belief in the power of empathy to bring people together. And as the years passed, his story continued to inspire new generations, proving that even in a world often divided by differences, there is always hope for unity, understanding, and a brighter future.